All right. You're a terrorist. I'm a terrorist. Everybody's a terrorist now, suddenly, I guess. Welcome back to the Quiet Part YouTube channel. And recently, the leader of the entire free world, the president of the United States, decided to post this describing his intentions, wherein he says, "I am pleased to inform our many American USA patriots that I am designating Antifa, a sick, dangerous, radical left disaster, as a major terrorist organization." Um, the president has decided to make an attempt to. I will also be strongly recommending that those funding Antifa will be thoroughly investigated in accordance with the highest legal standards and practices. You know who else should be thoroughly investigated in accordance with the highest legal standards and practices? The dude who was on Epstein's plane. We're all terrorists now. It's one big terrorist family. I'm so excited. Being a teacher in 2025, just being in 2025 in the United States is insane. It's just a constant joyride. Nothing makes sense. Anyone can say anything. Accountability doesn't exist. And I guess all public school teachers are terrorists now. I am happy to call myself anti-fascist. I'm not sure what it means to be an anti-fascist. I just am anti-fascist. And so are you, because you have a basic education and human moral decency. Here's what's been going on. Some other stuff in the world recently. Teachers all across the United States have been getting fired because we're not mourning Charlie Kirk. I also am not mourning Charlie Kirk. I feel really bad for his kids. I feel really bad for his family. Other than that, I don't know him. He's a stranger to me. He's just some dude. And I'm personally not mourning him. I'm not celebrating his death. And a lot of teachers aren't celebrating his death either. But just because we are refusing to mourn Charlie Kirk, who his entire career was built up on putting forth hate speech, and supporting crazy white supremacy, crazy implicit racism, homophobia. He made comments one time where he essentially said he wanted trans people to be killed the same way, to be dealt with the same way that they were in the 50s and 60s, and they were killed. That's what happened with trans people in the 50s and 60s. He was a terrible dude. And I consider his legacy for the rest of time immemorial. I will describe Charlie Kirk as the walking onion article. The dude who defended gun violence and said gun violence is just a trade-off we have to make. It's something we have to deal with if we want to have the Second Amendment. And then he died by gun violence. So he's a walking onion article. I think he's a terrible person. I think he's damn near an actual Nazi because of what he supported historically. And guess what? People with basic amounts of education also concur. Charlie Kirk was a bad person. He's now dead. I'm not going to mourn him. Let's read through this Ed Week article talking about people not mourning Charlie Kirk and then getting fired for it. So in the 2 days since conservative activist Charlie Kirk was assassinated, social media reactions have ranged from sorrowful grief, condemnation, and offering prayers to the crassest expressions of celebration from online critics. And my position here is none of this is clear celebration of murder. None of this is clear celebration of assassination. None of this is clear celebration of even his death. It's just not mourning a bad dude. So I don't need to talk about who Kirk is. Kirk is a white supremacist, hate speech, debate bro, slop content generator. He's one of these like dude bro spear guys that was indoctrinating 14-year-old boys to be more racist and more transphobic. That was like his whole thing. But I want to talk about the specific posts, the things that teachers were posting that are getting them fired right now. Educators' posts in Miami, Florida, and Cecil County, Maryland, for instance, suggested Kirk's death was karma. You have a right to say that. You're not saying that you personally support him being murdered. You're saying the things that be I believe it was either Malcolm X or Huey P. Newton that said, but like, yeah, the chickens came home to roost. You did horrible things, and a horrible thing was done to you. I wouldn't do it myself. Me saying, or anyone saying like, oh, Kirk dying for engaging in violent hate speech his entire life and supporting gun violence to then die by gun violence is karma, is an observation. That's not me supporting or saying like I would personally kill him. No one's saying that. Teachers have free speech rights that are limited compared to the average person. But there's a test that I'll talk about momentarily. So someone said it was karma. I don't think that is validation for firing a teacher. Someone said, oh, this terrible dude who engaged in hate speech, who supported gun violence and died by gun violence, experienced karma. Yeah, man, that's what karma is. You're describing it. An Iowa high school teacher, this is the one that's definitely going to end up on the news. This is one that's definitely going to be some sort of larger federal or even Supreme Court case. An Iowa high school teacher was put on leave after his superintendent said he allegedly posted one Nazi down. You're allowed to say that. I don't know what to tell you, man. Homeboy engaged in white supremacy, ultranationalism, and Christian nationalism. Well, he's not missing much to be a Nazi. And he was a very Christian supremacist sort of nationalist. The ensuing backlash against these types of posts have led to spiraling security concerns for schools, disabling comments on Facebook account. What else is going on here? Inappropriate comments on our social media page. So here's why I pulled up the Ed Week article, because Ed Week was actually going to mention the data. The Supreme Court ruled in Pickering versus Board of Education that teachers and other public school employees retain their First Amendment rights to comment or reflect on issues of public concern if they do so in a private manner that doesn't involve their public position and their commentary is nonviolent. No one here is saying like, I would have shot Charlie or like, yeah, I'm so happy he bled out and got that bullet through his neck and a gallon of blood. Like no one is like enjoying the gore. No one is doing that. They're saying this dude has a terrible legacy. I'm going to immediately tell everyone that he has a terrible legacy. And they're doing it on their private accounts as individual people, the same as I do every single day. Despicable comments. Come on, dude. It's a Florida education commissioner. Shut up. Like, we know what you stand for. Educators' personal views that are made public may undermine the trust of students and families that they serve. Me saying that Charlie Kirk was a bad person, and I do not mourn the loss of power by bad people, should not get in the way of me being an effective teacher. I'm not suddenly untrustworthy with kids. In fact, there's a very high likelihood that means I am specifically trustworthy with kids because I don't like bad people. What do you want me to do about that? No one is saying like I would take the gun and kill him. No one is saying that. And if they did, I completely concur. Let me look at you. I completely agree. And you're going to find, maybe someone's going to find some edge case where someone does say this. Yeah, fuck them for saying it. I completely agree that if a teacher was just like, yeah, I wish I had pulled the trigger. Yeah, man. Yes, get them out of the classroom. Even if it was instead of a gun related thing, I don't care if it was like I had poisoned him or I stabbed him. Like, no, that's fucked. Like, that's bad. That's a call for violence. And I think that's wrong. But for someone to comment on his legacy, for someone to not mourn him, for someone to express dissent for what this man did throughout his career, now that his career is wrapped up, that's not unusual. People have been doing that since the beginning of time. When people pass away, the thing to focus on is their legacy. And guess what? He has a bad legacy. So people are not mourning him. They're not mourning the loss of power by a terrible person who constantly incited violence with their language and speech. That's what's called hate speech. No, I'm not particularly sad that this person can no longer do that. I'm sad that he died. I'm sad that it was a painful death. I'm sad that his kids are going to have a dead dad. Like, even if he was a terrible person, I can only imagine he wasn't the worst father. No, these things are different. And I just think it's insane that teachers are getting fired over this. I think we're going to see the Supreme Court, being what it is totally going to slap these teachers down. But I do think this will escalate and have grounds for escalating legally. And maybe we'll get another teacher free speech Supreme Court case to sort of pad out the conversation. I want to talk to you for a second about what it means to be Antifa. I want to talk to you for a second about fascism. And I want you to just make some mental connections with me real quick. Fascism can be defined. I have said explicitly that I support anti-fascism. You do too. I know you do too. Even if you don't like the pop culture definition of anti-fascism, no normal person who is like, hasn't tried to hurt someone, no normal non-violent person, civil human being supports fascism. No one does. And it's common sense not to. So let's just talk about the characteristics of fascism. I'm going to take you back to the classroom. If it isn't obvious, obviously I'm a public school teacher. I've been in the classroom. I'm no longer a full-time teacher. I'm a substitute teacher instead, so I have more free time to do stuff like this. Let's talk about the characteristics of fascism real quick. I'm gonna have to make myself real small while I read these off. Okay, this is just a generic worksheet that I found online. I'm not like gonna specifically look for like a Harvard study on it. I'm gonna tell you what the common sense definition of it is based on like a definition you could Google online. So here are the sort of material characteristics of what fascism is. Fascism is authoritarian. Okay, it advocates for strong, centralized power, often led by a single leader or party with limited or no accountability. That is anti-democratic. Every public school teacher is probably against authoritarianism, and they should be. Okay, it's also nationalist. It's not just patriotic. Fascism is nationalist. Fascist ideologies emphasize a fervent loyalty and devotion to the nation, promoting a sense of superiority and often emphasizing cultural or ethnic purity. There should be no public school teacher in the country that believes in ethnic purity. That's like being a Nazi. We're not chill with that. Totalitarianism. Fascist regimes aim to control and regulate every aspect of a person's lives, including politics, the economy, and individual lives. Any public school teacher is going to be against totalitarianism. We believe in education. We believe in freedoms. We believe in basic American ideas. These are not American ideas. Suppression of dissent. Any educator who believes in free speech, in public discourse, in the process of engaging in Socratic rhetoric for the pursuit of learning, communication, and nonviolence. Dissent is necessary to maintain a nonviolent society. The riot is the voice of the unheard. If you suppress dissent, it's going to lead to violence. If you believe in nonviolence, you support free speech and open discussion and dialogue, which Charlie Kirk himself supported. Despite me arguing that much of his speech was hate speech, he still supported that on paper. Fascism seeks to silence or eliminate opposition, often through censorship, propaganda, and the use of force especially. No public school teacher is going to support that. You are an anti-fascist. All right, militarism. Fascist ideologies frequently glorify military strength. Think about that military parade that happened on No King's Day, on Flag Day. Military strength, expansionism, aggressive foreign policies, viewing war as a means to achieve national greatness. If you are a public school teacher, you probably do not support unnecessary violence. So it's crazy that we are in a time right now where these two things are true, where being against fascism, which is innately violent, innately supremacist, innately non-human, makes a person a terrorist, while expressing dissent for the legacy of a white supremacist, transphobe, Christian ultra-nationalist is a thing you get fired for. Meanwhile, being anti-fascist and being against violence is something that makes you a terrorist. Okay, so these are what I consider the material characteristics of fascism. But what I like far more than just saying it's authoritarian, it's militaristic, what I love to look at are the rhetoric or aesthetics of fascism to some degree. This is, again, just another academic slideshow I pulled from the internet a long time ago. It was from a college lecture on the topic. Fascism and its rhetoric is based off of these key ingredients. Now, again, academics are going to have one or two different definitions of the ingredients, but everyone agrees that fascism is these things. So don't get it twisted. I'm not like choosing a particular definition of it. I'm even giving you multiple. Fascism is bad in these particular ways, and pretty much academically agrees what's going on with these ways in which fascism is bad. You are anti-fascist. You are anti-fascist. So fascism involves ultranationalism. So it's not just being patriotic for your country. It's going beyond that and believing in your country's supremacy. That's when you go beyond. That's the ultra of the nationalism, which is, of course, an appeal to a person's pathos, their feelings and their emotions of security and superiority. This is that white replacement theory shit, which, like, if I recall correctly, Charlie Kirk engaged with a few times, if not expressing total agreement with the premise. He's engaged with it very, very clearly several times. Fascism. I love talking about this because this is so important and this goes so unnoticed by average people when they hear about this word. Fascism is very mythological. It's very folklore dependent on this idea that, like, us Nazis have a holy obligation to be the supreme race. And and we white people come from Europe, and these savage native people are just wrong, and they're subhuman, and our history is compelling us to be supreme. That is a huge part of fascism, building this mythology, which an example of such mythology is saying that Antifa is even an organization and then saying it's a terrorist organization. That's mythology. You made that the fuck up. That's not true. Couple of simple clarifications. Antifa's not an organization. There is no organization. There is no organization named Antifa. There are some like specific cities who have an anti-fascist group that will say like Antifa of XY. Sure. But you can't nationally say that Antifa is an organization because it's not. That's just objectively not reality. Being anti-fascist would kind of encourage you to not have, you know, powerful leadership. It would encourage you to not obsess over tribalism. It would encourage you to be against fascism all on your own. And if you're going to come out and protest and resist state violence, you're going to just kind of do that on your own without having a traditional organization behind it. So this is mythology. This is not true. This is not real. This is not happening. And the other thing I want to mention and make sure I mention is saying that Antifa is an organization is like saying anti-mur is an organization. ANTIMUR, being anti-murder, right? Like we're against with Charlie Kirk, which again, pretty much none of the teachers I've talked about here were like pro-murder. None, like they weren't doing that. They were just anti-Kirk. They were not expressing pro-murder. they were making comparisons and basic observations. But saying Antifa is an organization is saying like anti-mur is an organization. Being anti-murder, it makes me part of an organization holding a basic human belief against tribalism and violence and supremacy makes me part of an organization. What are you talking about? This is mythology. What Trump is saying here is mythology, and it is this mythic past, this creation of, you know, us here on the right can storm the literal Capitol, break in, conduct property damage, get some people killed, and that's not being a crazy mob, but Antifa is. Us versus them. That's number 3. That's us versus them. It's all about saying like the liberals, the woke, they're crazy. It's all about fear mongering, where like we have a group cohesion as supremacist white people, and the out group is threatening our very existence. Their existence cannot be tolerated because it actually threatens our existence. This is mythological. This is folklore. This is not real. And then ethos. It's this idea of your fascist leaders are always the experts in the room. They're really good at negotiating. They speak softly and carry a big stick, and this appeals to this idea of a person being an authority, even when they totally aren't. And then the 5th rhetoric or sort of rhetorical aesthetic of fascism is that fascism is anti-logic. It is anti-objective reality. Oh boy, what looks like anti-objective reality? This is anti-objective reality. Antifa is not an organization. You are being anti-reality. That is not happening. And you, casual viewer, are anti-fascist. There is no goddamn way that you support supremacy as an ultranationalist. There is no goddamn way that you think that like white people were put on the earth by God and the brown savages that we genocided deserved it. And you don't think that like just because a human looks different or has a different sexuality or gender identity, that they're a different human being and their sheer existence threatens you. You aren't anti-logic and objective fact. You are not these things. I am not these things. I am against these things. You are against these things. We're all terrorists now, I guess. we're all terrorists now. I guess that's the world we live in right now. All right, couple other fun things to wrap up real quick. People have been posting, rightfully so, pictures of this, like the storming of Normandy in 1944. And they're being like, look at this Antifa these Antifa troops, I can't believe it. Look at them. They're deploying on Normandy. Antifa is out. Because guess what? World War II was all about fighting Nazi fascism. That was the whole point. Veterans did not support fascism. They were taught about fascism. There are guidebooks that are published by like the CIA and by the US military that talked about identifying fascism and why soldiers need to understand that it's a bad thing. There was propaganda that was anti-fascist. That was a core part of the American military experience. And so people are publishing now like, hey, if you're going to say that everyone's a terrorist, I guess my great-grandfather's a terrorist because he fought in World War II and he punched Nazis. You know who else punched Nazis and I guess is a terrorist? Captain fucking America, I guess, is a terrorist because he punched Nazis 27 times, right? 2025 is just an insane period to even be alive. And it's an even more insane period to be a teacher, to be educated, to be an educator and know what free speech is. And know why supremacy is bad, and know why fascism is anti-democracy. And I don't mean like Democrat, Republican. I mean the sheer concept of the thing that underpins democratic representation and republic representation, a representative republic and a democratic electoral system. Being anti-fascist is common sense. And if being against fascism makes me a terrorist, then I'm 100% the most dangerous terrorist on the planet, apparently, because I don't support fascism. And so does pretty much every educated person on the goddamn planet. Pretty much, hey, a lot of people without education can intuitively be like, yeah, I really don't like white supremacy murder. I don't like other supremacy murder either. I really don't like being anti-logic. I don't like stupid amounts of militarism. I don't like crushing dissent. I love free speech. Charlie Kirk was for free speech. A lot of right-wingers are allegedly for free speech for themselves, but not for you. People don't like totalitarianism. I mean, that's one thing I'm almost certain that pretty much every American agrees on, is that we don't want the government in our lives. Right, left, doesn't matter. We don't want the government in our lives. We want it to do its job. That is a characteristic of fascism. And you are probably against it. So I guess speaking satirically, keep in mind that today's piece is sarcasm and satire. I'm a terrorist. You're a terrorist. We're all terrorists. That's what it means to be a teacher in 2025, I guess. Fun stuff. Hey, if you like this video, be sure to like it. Get subscribed to see more of my work. Leave me some comments down below, bullying fascists with me. Share this video with people. If you want to support me directly, consider clicking the join button below to become a channel member and support me directly. And best of luck with your terrorism, I guess. You know, I made a post where I was just like, hey, the only reason Trump can get away with saying being against fascism makes you a terrorist is because most of the World War II veterans have already passed on. If he had said that shit in like the 60s, it would be, oh my God. I literally could imagine that the right wing's mythology of like using our guns to fight the tyrannical government. I could literally imagine a bunch of military vets being like, I went to war and lost people I love to fight fascism. And I made our country better for it. The 50s and 60s that the right wingers love so much are beloved because we fought fascism and won. We live in a dystopian novel written by a 14-year-old that just discovered dystopian writing. That's where we are right now. All right, bye.